Here's the funny thing about evolution. In its ever-going process to create the most suitable biological organisms, old ways of doing things, aka old genes, which code for the molecules of biological life, proteins, don't always gracefully exit the game. In fact, sometimes they do the opposite and linger around, becoming a straight-up liability to have on the biological playing field. And in the potential case today, a longevity liability. At least according to a hypothesis put forth over the last couple of years by a bunch of researchers in the know. Let's see if it holds water and, more importantly, what you could do about it. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftinbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today we are once again diving into the interworkings of longevity liability numero uno. The one happening that is present and consistent across basically every single chronic condition and disease that we intelligent walking apes face. And there isn't even a close second. We're talking about none other than chronic inflammation, or the overactivity of our immune system response to the point where it causes damage and dysfunction to basically everything in its path. And as we know, damage and dysfunction are the prerequisites for disease and depression. But that's old news, especially if you scrolled around this channel for more than 30 seconds. What we'll be exploring today is a very specific culprit in this inflammatory story, and how it influences the health span and lifespan of our favorite four-legged cheese-loving friends. Mice, not dogs. Even though, now that I think about it, many dogs do make you pay the cheese tax. But mice. And ultimately, what it can mean for us humans. Finishing this powwow, as always, with a few tactical things that you can do right here, right now, to control and limit these inflammation levels within. Because we do, in fact, have a problem. A problem of decreased healthy years of life, or health span, combined with a steady, not moving, average lifespan, which by the laws of Pythagorean theorem, trends our longevity, or healthy years over total years, in the wrong direction. And yes, I know that that wasn't the right math concept to explain this happening, but it's cool to say, and I wanted to relive middle school math for a second, so let's let it slide. A situation which begins to make a little more sense when you learn that it is estimated that nearly 90% of the Western adult population is thought to be dealing with some sort of mild to moderate undiagnosed metabolic dysfunction. And one of the main direct byproducts of metabolic dysfunction is inflammation. The same inflammation which sets the stage for the most common and despised diseases we humans face, including cardiovascular disease, neurodegeneration, autoimmune conditions, and cancer. Exactly why, when I see data highlighting how neutralizing key inflammatory molecules could lead to an observed 20 to 30% extension of healthy years in our cheese-loving compadres, mice, not dogs, I think it's worth talking about. Wait a second. Did I just give away the money stat 3 minutes into the video? I did. Well, some records are meant to be broken. Anyway, the real interesting part, as you know, is in the details. So let's take a look at this new research and talk about them. Researchers out of the Medical Research Council Laboratory and Imperial College London looked into what silencing a known inflammatory signaling molecule can possibly do for the health span and lifespan of mice. Here they focused on a family of signaling molecules called cytokines, which are small proteins secreted by cells to signal the immune system to do things. And when I say things, we're talking about rallying to an area like a pack of wild New York City rats closing in on a half-eaten slice of pizza in the subway. Oddly specific, I know. Or backing off in an anti-inflammatory vibe fest equivalent to what you would see at your local hippie festival, with a whole bunch of intermediate reactions and functions in between. but hopefully you get the point. These molecules get released by the cell as a reaction to their both internal and external environment, and as a result, modulate the immune system in a particular way. Now, as alluded to, there are a whole bunch of different types of cytokines, some inflammatory and some anti-inflammatory, but also a fair amount which do both, based on the circumstance. I know, gotta love biology. So for this study, there was a specific cytokine that researchers honed in on, one that has been previously shown to be pro-inflammatory and pro-fibrotic, the latter meaning a driver of tissue scarring, which would also make it not surprising to hear that it has been associated with several age-related diseases, as past research has linked it to chronic inflammation, fibrosis in organs, disorders of metabolism, muscle deterioration, aka scarpopenia, frailty, cardiac fibrosis, and the onset of a major aging hallmark, a topic we recently reviewed in this video here, cellular senescence. And guess what? This cytokine has been conveniently observed to start becoming more prevalent and elevated in humans in their 6th and 7th decades of life, or our mid-50s. The cytokine in question here is interleukin-11, and it was the spotlight of this study in mice, as researchers explored the impact of both breeding mice who were intentionally missing the IL-11 gene and administering an anti-IL-11 drug which inhibited its effects to older mice to see how it impacted the classic markers of mouse aging. And what they found, as I teased earlier, was really quite amazing. The mice with the deleted IL-11 gene saw an average healthy life expansion of about 20%. While the 75-week-old mice, which roughly translates to about 55 years of age in humans, treated with the anti-IL-11 drug until their death, saw their median life extended by about 22% in males and 25% in females, which is pretty wild. But wait, there's more. When the researchers biopsied these mice after death, there was a noticeable decrease in the occurrences of cancer in the two groups of IL-11 treated mice. And if you're like me and you know way too much about lab mice, the top cause of death in these little critters is almost always cancer. So very interesting observation indeed. Now, and this is a big now, I must remind you that this was a mouse model. And despite a growing percentage of the human population acting like rats, mice are not, in fact, humans. And findings in animal models often do not translate one for one over to humans. So much more research is still needed here. That being said, these initial findings are super encouraging and lay a great foundation to build on. And the fact that they observed no negative effects from this treatment in both experimental groups has led some researchers on this team to rekindle the idea that IL-11 may be a hangover gene of evolution, meaning left around in the genome with no critical function that cannot be carried out by another single or group of genes. That being said, biology is complex, and there is a lot we still don't know about the granular details of our molecular biology and biochemistry. So we must be ultra skeptical that anything within us can be removed with little or no consequences until we have much more evidence in our hands. That being said, this doesn't mean that we shouldn't make an effort to modulate our immune system to be precise and efficient rather than chronic and rambunctious. Because quite frankly, this may be the very best tool that we have to fight chronic inflammation, and thus the acceleration of this internal cellular and metabolic disaster waiting to happen. So let's explore some ways we can do just that. And the good news is, research has displayed that there are a number of ways that we can fight off this inflammatory storm within. Because inflammation is really just a function of our internal cellular environment. And our cellular environment is very much influenced by our daily habits, routines, rituals, and external environment. Thus, we have some levers to pull here. Let's dive into the top ones. First, as we've discussed ad nauseum throughout dozens of videos on this channel already, we've got good old badonka-donking. As daily exercise has a wide-ranging, long-lasting anti-inflammatory effect throughout the body. One of the main reasons being, every time we do it, a flurry of anti-inflammatory cytokines are secreted, upregulating pathways which make our cells and thus our body operate more efficiently. One of the main mechanisms at play here is improved mitochondria function, as this activity stimulates the recycling of weak, leaky mitochondria and promotes the creation of strong, efficient ones. And if you weren't aware, weak, leaky mitochondria are one of the most prevalent drivers of inflammation in the first place. So consistent badonka-donking beelines it right to the origin of one of the main inflammatory issues. Thus why you should get off your butt and do it already. Next, we move to our favorite pastime ever: eating. As real whole foods filled with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, polyphenols, healthy fats, fiber, and protein fuel cellular efficiency and strengthen our key bodily barriers, like the gut wall, which is a major infiltration point for inflammation to be triggered, as we discuss here. This type of eating also reduces inflammation via neutralizing free radicals, modulating the microbiome in an anti-inflammatory way, and reducing inflammatory visceral fat accumulation. All of which the ultra-processed alternative, aka the standard Western diet, does the opposite of. So yeah, you kinda are what you eat. Old adage was right. And as we know, with the benefits of real whole food eating comes strategically taking a break or not eating. As practices such as daily time-restricted feeding and intermittent fasting have been shown to upregulate beneficial rest, rejuvenate, and repair pathways, which ultimately modulate the immune system in an anti-inflammatory way. Being shown to do this by upregulating cellular and mitochondrial cleanup pathways such as autophagy and mitophagy, ridding any problems before they proliferate, re-energizing stem cells, and down-regulating inflammatory cytokine production. We have much more on this across the Fasting 101 playlist, but the main message to take away here is that structured meal timing can make a difference, an inflammatory difference. Finally, and quite possibly the most important, we have high-quality circadian aligned sleep, as chronic sleep deprivation has been shown to affect several cellular pathways which increase the total levels of oxidative stress throughout the body, aka inflammation levels. Combine that with the fact that this is a critical time for both detoxification via pathways like the brain's glymphatic system and immune system strengthening, makes it pretty clear that anything other than good circadian aligned sleep with an 8-hour sleep opportunity will set the stage for an inflammatory nightmare. A nightmare that even the best dream catchers won't catch. Yeah. Scary stuff. Other key modulators of your inflammatory situation to keep in mind include stress, as low-dose chronic stress is right up there with chronic inflammation in its nefarious effects, exposure to pollutants and everyday toxins such as smoke, exhaust, unfiltered water, and chemicals in everyday products, spending more time in nature, and grounding, which has several anti-inflammatory effects, as discussed here, incorporating more good stressors such as heat and cold exposure, also anti-inflammatory, and even breathing right. Here's a hint. Use your nose. It's probably the most underutilized health tool you have. The best part of all of this is when you start making these habits a staple in your everyday lifestyle, thus focusing, whether you know it or not, on improving your cellular health and efficiency, something amazing starts to happen. You think better, feel better, move better, groove better, and overall function better in the short term and the long. And one of the main reasons why is their likely effects on controlling inflammation levels within. The name of the game is prevention, and your daily habits, routines, and rituals are the best tools you got, most of which don't cost a dime, only time. So get out there and own your outcome already.